Senator Quorum call?
No.
Mr. President, I understand that there is a bill at the desk that's due for a second reading.
Appropriate funds for pay and allowances of federal employees and so forth and for other purposes.
Mr. President, in order to place on the calendar under the provisions of Rule 14, I would object to further proceeding.
The objection is heard. The bill will be placed on the calendar.
Mr. President, I'm glad to be able to say that 8 Democrats joined Republicans last night to take the first step to reopen the government. And in the very near future, we will be voting on a final package, a clean continuing resolution until January the 30th, and 3 bipartisan full-year appropriations bills. These bills are the military construction, VA, agriculture, and legislative branch appropriations, 3 of the 12 bills that Congress needs to pass on an annual basis. And what that means, Mr. President, is that year-long funding for SNAP, for WIC, for veterans, for essential farm programs, and for a number of other critical priorities will be met. Mr. President, I said that we will be voting on the final package in the very near future, and I'm hoping that will be hours and not days. We're on the 41st day of this shutdown. Nutrition benefits are in jeopardy. Air travel is an extremely precarious situation. Our staffs and many, many other government workers have been working for nearly 6 weeks without pay. I could spend an hour talking about all the problems we've seen, which have snowballed the longer this shutdown has gone on. Aware of the facts. And I'm grateful that the end is in sight. But I would encourage every member of this body, Democrat or Republican, pro-bill or anti-bill, not to stand in the way of our being able to deliver the coming relief quickly. The American people have suffered for long enough. Let's not pointlessly drag this bill out. Let's get it done, get it over to the House so that we can get this government open. Mr. President, as I have emphasized since being elected Majority Leader last November, I remain deeply committed to advancing full-year appropriations bills through regular order. And we've drafted this continuing resolution to extend to January 30th specifically to give us more time to get this bipartisan work done. I look forward to taking up additional appropriations bills on the floor in the near future. Mr. President, after 41 days, I'm grateful to be able to say that we are close to getting the government reopened. And again, I ask all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, of both parties, to make it possible for us to quickly pass this bill. Mr. President, I yield the floor. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsop-Brooks.
Mr. President.
Majority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, yesterday the Senate took a major step forward on the path to reopening the government. The bill before us is simple. It's clean, it's bipartisan, it's a continuing resolution, and it funds the government through January. It's paired with 3 full-year appropriations bills. So let me repeat that. Appropriations bills for the full next year. Now, these are bills that have already passed the Senate with bipartisan support, broad bipartisan support, I would add, and they were negotiated on a bipartisan basis with the House. They're fully funded in terms of veterans care, and look, this is critical. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. Our veterans need to know that we stand behind them. It's also fully funding on food assistance, SNAP, WINFIT. It's ready to go. Let's remember that this shutdown has caused serious pain to many, many American families. People who have stood in line around the block at food banks all across the country. And that's because 42 million Americans missed their SNAP payments. Flights were delayed and canceled because control towers are understaffed. People there working are overworked. Yesterday, there were 2,000. Yesterday was now, the government is finally on the path to reopening. This is the right result. This is what the American people need. They need certainty. And opening the government provides that level of certainty that the American people want, especially heading into the holidays. So I want to thank President Trump. I want to thank my colleagues in the Senate and both sides of the aisle who voted to support that. You know, the President stood strong when Chuck Schumer stood here and demanded tens of billions of dollars be sent from the federal treasury directly to the bank accounts of health insurance companies. President Trump's leadership protected taxpayers and continues to protect the country. Now, let's be clear about what comes next. The Senate is going to use the next few months to pass the additional appropriation our economy, to secure our border, to invest in our military, to promote fiscal responsibility, and we have to do that after 4 years of high prices and an open border. That's what Republicans in this body and across the hall. Republicans are making the appropriations process work again. Last year, Senator Schumer refused to the appropriations passed out many times unanimous appropriations bill, but yet the minority leader refused to bring them to the floor. It's no way to run the government. That's no way to run the Senate. It's not leadership. The debate ahead is also about the many failures of the Obama health care law known as Obamacare. This is a debate that Republicans welcome. Mr. President, health care in America is broken and is unaffordable, and it broke the day that they passed Obamacare. Costs have exploded. Obamacare premiums have gone up 221%. That's what happened since the law. President Obama at the time said premiums for families would go down by $2,500. It was all wrong. Democrats have no answer for that other than more direct subsidies directly from the federal government, directly into the bank accounts of the insurance companies. Republicans believe Americans deserve high-quality, affordable health care. Americans haven't gotten that since the day Obamacare became law. It's time, Mr. President, to reopen the government. Suffered too long. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor. Suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsop Brooks.